So you're thinking about moving to Oklahoma and you want to know the pros and cons of it. Sure, you could just ask Google or even ChatGPT to give you the pros and cons about moving here, but you want to hear from someone who's been through it. Look, 20 years ago, I was in your shoes, okay? I was a guy moving halfway across the country to come right here to OKC. So in this video, I'm gonna give you the pros and the cons of living here. Now, if you're new to this channel, there's one thing I would love for you to do, and that's like and subscribe. And if you are a subscriber, you're probably thinking to yourself, Russell, where the hell have you been? Look, I haven't made a video in the last couple of weeks, couple of months, for a couple of reasons. Number one is I'm the only person that records, shoots, edits these videos. And the last 5 videos were very intense, and I had to take a break. I'm not even gonna lie. The other thing is that I've been spending a lot of time with my kids. My wife and I both realized that our daughters are getting older, and I want to spend as much time as I can with them before I blink and they're off to college. So I've been doing that. I got one kid that plays competitive basketball, one plays competitive volleyball, so that's taken up a little bit of my time. We've also been busy selling houses. We've moved over $3 million in real estate over the past couple of weeks. So thank you to all you guys that have subscribed. Thank you to all you guys that have trusted me on your move to OKC. We've closed a lot of properties over the past couple of weeks. And the last thing is, my wife and I are thinking about moving. And in fact, we are about to start a massive renovation project to our daughter's bathroom. So we're kind of gearing up and getting ready to possibly put our house on the market, which is in Deer Creek. It's gonna be under $350,000. So if you're a person that's looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath with an office, under $350 in Deer Creek, what? Call me. So where are we possibly moving to? We're probably just gonna move about 5 or 6 miles north of where we currently live. That way we can get a little bit closer to my in-laws. But enough about me. You guys want to know what are the biggest pros and cons of moving to Oklahoma, like I said. And I'm gonna start with the first con, and this is just my opinion. I think the biggest con about moving to Oklahoma is moving to Oklahoma, okay? Look, when you were a child, you thought about living someplace cool like New York, Chicago, Miami, Los Angeles, San Diego. That's where a lot of people envision themselves living. London, Paris. A lot of people didn't have it on their life bingo card of wanting to move to Oklahoma City. I know I didn't lay in my bed at night and think to myself, one day, I'll make it to Oklahoma City. Nobody says that. And I think that is, again, the biggest con about moving here, and it's just because of the stigma of what people think Oklahoma is, because most people have no idea what Oklahoma City is truly like. Because the thing about life is you want people to be excited about your move. You want people to be like, oh my God, as soon as you get to Dallas, or oh my God, as soon as you get to New York or Los Angeles, we're gonna come to visit. When you move to Oklahoma, people don't say they're gonna visit you until like the last hug, like the very last hug, when they're like, we're gonna miss you. We'll try to come visit. Things are busy here, things are hectic, but we get a chance. We'll try to make it out that way. Because people don't know much about Oklahoma. And if you're a person that needs that validation from other people, if you're someone that really needs to have that swag of living in a major city like in LA or New York or Chicago, then Oklahoma City is not gonna be for you. Because if you really need people to kind of think that you're cool, or that you're living this amazing life someplace exotic, tropical, or you're just at the epicenter of nightlife, activities, things of that nature, then you're just not gonna get that from Oklahoma. And there are some people out there that's just that way. Like, they have to live in LA. They have to live in New York. They have to live in Chicago. They gotta live in Miami. You gotta live someplace where, you know, you're just like, you know, I am part of, you know, something amazing. And for people, especially those from California and New York, like, it's a hard thing to do, to step out of California, which is one of the most ideal destinations in all of the world, not just the United States, but the world. And to trade it into Oklahoma, it's a hard thing to do, okay? And if you're someone that can't get past just the stigma of you not living someplace that is quote unquote amazing, then Oklahoma City is not gonna be for you, because it will never be good enough. It will never be enough for you. No matter how comfortable it gets, no matter how well received it is, no matter how much fun you're having, you will always find ways to make it negative, you know, or you'll always find things on why you'll just say, huh, this place sucks. It could be the smallest thing. The garbage cans are green and blue, that sucks. You'll find ways. So if you gotta have a serious conversation with yourself, if you're someone that just has to live somewhere, like in LA or New York, then just stay there. You know what I mean? Because Oklahoma City will never make you happy. Now, let's talk about the biggest pro in my opinion. Again, these are just my opinions. I think the biggest pro about Oklahoma is the cost of living. You know what I mean? It's just way cheaper to live here than most other places in the United States. And I've had clients move from Vermont, California, New Mexico, you know, New York, New Jersey. You know, I've had clients move from all sorts of places, and they've all said the same thing. It's just so much cheaper to live here. And I'm not gonna be, you know, spouting off a bunch of numbers or things of that nature. Now, let's stop the video right here. Now, I know I just said that I was not going to talk about a bunch of numbers, but I think it would be irresponsible of me if I didn't. And the location that I'm going to use for these numbers is going to be Edmond, Oklahoma. Now, I could use Oklahoma City just in general. However, Oklahoma City is going to be way below the national average when it comes to cost of living. I mean, way below. And the reason why I'm going to use Edmond is because in a lot of people's eyes, again, Edmond is the #1 suburb here. And it's where a lot of you guys are thinking about moving to. So instead of just using Oklahoma City, which would be extremely easy of me to say, oh, look how cheap it is, Edmond's going to give you more of a realistic view of what you're really getting into by moving here. So when compared to national average, Edmond is going to be 10% cheaper than the national average, okay? And when it comes to housing, even though Edmond, again, is still one of the top suburbs in Oklahoma City, if not #1, it is still 20% cheaper than the national average, okay? The median home price is going to be $422,000 according to payscale.com. Now, some people might think that's kind of high, like, oh, I didn't think homes in Oklahoma cost $422,000. Again, Edmond is the #1 suburb, and it's where a lot of people are flooding to, it's where a lot of people are moving to. Now, with that being said, again, you can still buy a house in Edmond for, you know, $220,000 or $200,000 or $275,000. You know, again, $422 is just the median home price. And what are you getting for that $422,000? You know, putting my realtor cap on, I'm gonna honestly say for $422,000 in Edmond, you're probably gonna be able to buy a house. If it's a new construction, you're probably looking at about 2,000 square feet, 3-car garage, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2.5 bath. House might have an office, and that's going to be new construction. And what about existing neighborhoods like this one? For $422,000 instead of 2,000 square feet, you're probably looking at about 2,300 square feet all the way up to 3,000 square feet. You're still going to get the 4 bedrooms in most cases. You're also going to get the office. You're probably going to get maybe a bonus room. And instead of 2 bathrooms, you're probably looking at 2.5 or even 3 bathrooms. So that's what you're gonna get in an existing home for about $422,000. And another pro about living here in Oklahoma because of the cost of living is that it is a great place to buy your first home if you've been renting all your life. Because
you can afford to do that here. It's also an amazing place for retirees, but I'll talk more about that in the main part of the video. But I can tell you that if you're someplace and you can work remotely, or if you're coming here to take a job and, you know what I mean, you're coming here, you're thinking that, well, I want to rent a place for, you know, $2,000 a month, and you can just buy a house here. Even with interest rates the way that they are, you know what I mean? You can just buy a house if you're willing to pay $2,000 a month for rent. You can afford to buy a house here in Oklahoma. And I think that's one of the big reasons why people are choosing to move here. In fact, my latest listing that I have is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo that's only $79,000. I mean, and when you hear that, that is insane. So if you're someone that's, again, just looking to buy something small because you're single, you're young, you can still find deals like that here in Oklahoma. And the condo that I'm talking about is actually in pretty good shape. You know, you can buy brand new homes here for, you know, just about $200,000 in Mustang and Yukon, and which are some of the top suburbs here. You know, and some of these builders, they're actually gonna pay your closing costs, and some are even gonna buy you down. Now, are the houses gonna be your dream home? You know, possibly not, unless you're someone that never thought that they could ever own a home, okay? In Oklahoma, you could still buy brand new homes in the top suburbs for under $200,000. You know, I talked to a gentleman the other day, and he bought a house that's, again, right around that price point. And he's doing it because he has a wife, 2 kids, and he wants his wife to stay home with the kids. So they are a 1-income family, all right? And they are living in a fantastic suburb here in Oklahoma, and they're gonna be able to do it on 1 income. Where in California or New York or some other places, you might not be able to do that, okay? And again, Oklahoma can allow you to do some of those things. And if you're coming from a place and you're selling a home and you have major equity in that home, I got some clients that are putting down 50, 60, 70%, you know? I also have clients that are just paying straight cash. You know, they're living in a house maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% bigger than the house they had. It's nicer, it's in a better neighborhood, better area, better schools from where they were coming from. And now they're living in a place and they have either no mortgage or a very low mortgage because they paid so much down. I got a lot of people, especially in this age group, that are in their mid 40s to early 60s, and they're looking for a place to retire. And they are looking for a place that is gonna be centrally located because they have family all over the country. We just want Oklahoma to be our hub. You know, we'll live here throughout the year, but if I want to jet out somewhere, I can. I can afford to live here on my pension. I can afford to live here on just the income that I'm bringing in. I can basically have little to no mortgage, and I can live the next 30 years of my life comfortable, you know? And I got a lot of people that are doing that, and that's why they're moving to Oklahoma. Again, the cost of living is just cheaper. And if you really want to take a deeper dive into it, I did a video a couple of months ago, late last year, where I actually flew home to California, and I compared prices in Oklahoma to California. Home prices, home styles, and I also did a little bit of the grocery store. So again, it will give you a good idea of how much things cost here in Oklahoma. Now, the second biggest con is the one that I get asked the most about, and that's the weather. Look, when it comes to weather in Oklahoma, we get all 4 seasons, but the big season that everyone really wants to talk about is the spring, because spring is tornado season. I've said this in so many of my videos. In fact, if you guys are familiar with the channel, you'll probably be able to repeat the line I'm about to use. When it comes to tornadoes, you should respect them, but not fear them. Okay? Most people who have lived in Oklahoma all their lives have never seen a tornado. Okay? I know plenty of people that have never seen one. Now, do they happen? Yes. The meteorologist and the National Weather Service, they have the whole tornado thing kind of down a little bit. So it's kind of a situation where they can almost pinpoint rotation, or a hook is what they'll call it. They can see rotation around here, and they can pretty much pinpoint it almost down to a quarter mile, half mile area. You know, sometimes they can even do an intersection. So the sophistication of the Doppler radars that they have here, again, in my previous life, I worked at the NBC affiliate here for nearly 10 years. And so that Doppler radar they have is psychotic. I mean, it could basically hear a fart in Japan. So again, when it comes to tornadoes, the National Weather Service and the local meteorologists, you know, they're gonna let you know that it's possibly going to be a severe weather day, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 7 to 10 days before they even happen, you know, and they're gonna give you high risk, marginal risk, severe risk. And so as it gets closer to that day, you know, and throughout the day, they'll keep you advised at what's going on. And then sometimes they just, you know, putter out and nothing happens. And sometimes you actually do get severe weather. But the local meteorologists, and again, the National Weather Service, I mean, they're all over it. If there's an actual tornado warning in your area, everybody's phone goes off like an Amber Alert. You know what I mean? And that's just for a tornado warning or a tornado watch. So you're gonna be aware of what's going on. And what I'm about to say, to some people who aren't familiar with tornadoes, this is gonna sound absolutely crazy. When people's phones go off and they look at them and they're like, oh, this thing's like, you know, 20 miles south of us or 20 miles east of us, they just put their phones down and go back to eating at restaurants or shopping. Because, you know, if it's 20 miles east of us, it's not gonna usually hit a U-turn and come back. You know, so people just are like, it's not my problem. Unless you have family there, you know what I mean? You're gonna be like, yeah, that's no big deal. It's already past me. I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. Or it's too far down south, you know, or too far north. I don't really care. You know what I mean? That's just what's gonna happen. People who live here, they're just kind of used to it. And for people that are new here, you might be like, oh my God, there's a tornado warning 64 miles away. People here, whew, the only time people here get worried if it's like a couple of miles. That's when they go like, I gotta kind of keep an eye on this storm, you know? But if it's like 15 miles away, 9 times out of 10, people in Oklahoma do not care. Now, when it comes to the rest of the year, again, I did a really big in-depth video about the weather, and I go a little bit deeper into it, but I'll talk about it just real quick. Right now it's July. It's hot, you know, temperatures are gonna be in the 90s, upper 80s. Sometimes they'll hit triple digits. If you, on my audio, you could probably hear the cicadas in the background. So, you know, when it's hot outside, they're out and you can hear that ticking. You know, August, September, very similar to July. October, it starts to cool down. October and November are pretty great months. You know, November, people think if you're from the East Coast, you might think it's gonna be cold. In Oklahoma, November's still kind of warm. It will have its days where it's cold, but it still has great days in November. Even early December, you'll have some warm days in the upper 60s, sometimes even low 70s. By the back end of December is when you start getting into cold season. And then February and January, I think, are the worst months as far as being cold. Early March, it's kind of hit and miss. One day it's 75 or 65, next day it's like 42. So March is like the schizophrenic month. April, towards the back end of that, is usually the beginning of tornado season. And it kind of rolls all the way into the beginning of June. So it's more like 6 weeks. That's kind of what it is. And there is a secondary one that is kind of in, you know, October, November. You know, it's a lot more rare, but you know, you can get severe weather in the fall sometimes here. You know, so that does happen. Now, here's a pro about living in Oklahoma, and I've discovered this too. And it kind of goes along with the con that I first talked about. Because people think Oklahoma sucks, it kind of stays under the radar. You know, it's kind of one of those places where I don't see it really getting super congested, you know, over the next 20 years. Are more and more people going to move here? Yes. It's a growing city. You know, I mean, that's what happens when you have the NBA champions. You know, I mean, you kind of put yourself on the map. Not only is Oklahoma home of the NBA champions, We are also going to host part of the 2028 Olympics. You know, Oklahoma City has one of the greatest kayaking facilities. It's actually a U.S. training spot near downtown Oklahoma City. It's in the Boathouse district, and because of that, it's the LA didn't want to build the infrastructure for it, so they're gonna have that part of the Olympics actually here in Oklahoma City instead of LA. They also don't want to build the infrastructure for softball, and Oklahoma City is host of the NCAA Division I softball championship. It's also home to Team USA softball. So when they have world championship softball events, it's usually here in Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know that. And LA didn't want to build the infrastructure for that. So when it comes to the Olympics of 2028, majority of the events are going to be in LA, but some of them are actually going to be here in Oklahoma City. And as I say that, you know, I mean, you're probably picking up your phone if you're watching this on your computer or you're watching this on your TV. You're picking up your phone right now and going, is this true? Are they really going to host part of the Olympics? It's true. Look, Oklahoma City's not podunk. Oklahoma City is a major city. It has fine dining, it has museums, it has a lot of fantastic things. Oklahoma City is a major city. But one of the things about Oklahoma City is, even though it's a growing city, and even though I think it's a great place to raise a family, it slides under the radar because there are other cities that are, I think, that more people just want to go to. You know, I think more people want to go to Austin. More people want to go to Nashville. Knoxville's becoming hot. Charlotte, you know, that's another city where a lot of people are kind of moving to. And because of that, Oklahoma City kind of just slips under the radar. It's a major city that has NBA basketball. It has SEC football because Norman is just north of Oklahoma City. So we have the University of Oklahoma, so you have major college football. You also have OSU, so you have major college football out in Stillwater, which is only about 50 minutes from Oklahoma City. So again, that's a major pro. It's like living in a major city and having all the amenities of a major city, museums, fine dining, everything that you would want in a major city, but yet you don't have maybe the congestion of an LA, a New York, a Chicago, a San Diego. I think Oklahoma City is always going to be one of those cities that it grows. People who move here kind of fall in love with it, but it takes a lot for people to actually say, I want to move here. You know, and a lot of people have said my videos are helpful, and it kind of highlights these things, but it's in there, and I try to make them as accurate as I can be. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt to make it seem like Oklahoma City is the greatest place in the whole wide world. I mean, because again, has its pros, has its cons. But Oklahoma City is a major city. It's growing. There's a lot to do here. It's not podunk, or we wouldn't be hosting part of the Olympics. But it still kind of just falls under the radar. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what you want. You want that feeling of not being in a major hustle and bustle. And the next one could be a pro or a con, depending on where you're coming from. And that's gonna be traffic. If you're someone coming from like LA or again, Chicago, New York, Oklahoma City traffic is a joke. You know what I mean? You know, even 5 o'clock traffic or early morning traffic to you, it's gonna be laughable. You know, as someone that grew up in the Bay Area, I really know what it's like to, you know, go 20 miles in an hour and 15 minutes, you know what I mean? Because that's how congested, you know, some of that Bay Area traffic can be. You know, I've been in LA, you know what I mean? And LA traffic is horrible. Houston, Dallas, I mean, those places, they got horrible traffic as well. So when it comes to traffic in Oklahoma, if you're coming from a major metropolitan area, you're gonna think traffic here is gonna be light. The other day I took my wife to the airport and my kids, and the airport I think is like 22 miles from my house. It took me 35 minutes to get there, and I had to fight through 5 o'clock traffic. Okay, 35 to 40 minutes to go 22, 23 miles. To a lot of people, is nothing. You know what I mean? Like it was smooth sailing until I got to a little bit of congestion near downtown, and then it kind of opened up once I got, you know, past the Oklahoma River. So again, if you're coming from a major metropolitan area, you're like, Russell, I don't care about that. Now, if you're coming from a smaller town, smaller community, and you're moving to Oklahoma, then it's going to be something that you're going to be like, this is the worst thing in the whole wide world. People who are from here, you know what I mean? They're getting to the point where they're complaining about traffic, and they're just like, oh my God, traffic is just so bad here. You know, I used to be able to get to the airport at 5 o'clock. It took me 30 minutes or 27 minutes. Now it's 38. You know, again, it just depends on where you're coming from when it comes to traffic. Now, has the traffic in Oklahoma gotten worse over the years? Yeah, I'd say yes, because Oklahoma City is a growing city. If you're gonna be someone that's gonna be living in like, you know, Yukon or Edmond or Mustang or Moore or Norman, some of the suburbs, you know, personally, I think the worst part of your commute is gonna be as you get maybe 2 to 3 miles from your house. You know, sometimes you're gonna get stuck by stop signs, you know, and you get some of those really long ones. You know, I live not too far from Memorial and Rockwell, you know what I mean? And there is a stretch on that one from the people coming from Paycom, and the people coming from, you know, downtown Oklahoma City, getting off on the turnpike on Rockwell. Oh man, if you're going north, it sucks. You know, you can be on that stop and go for a hot minute. In fact, they've had to actually put a police officer there on your morning commute that's basically giving hand signals. He's getting people to go, you know, so they're not even using the 4-way stop anymore. So, you know, there are some areas in Oklahoma that is going to be congested, you know, especially as you get closer to your house. But for the most part, throughout the day, you know, I took the same trip that's like going to the airport earlier that same day to go pick up some tile for my remodel. And I mean, I was able to get to the tile store and back in about 45 minutes. Total round trip. Maybe 50 minutes, I guess. But no, it was drive down, pick up tile, you know, talk to my neighbor who works at the tile store, get back in the car, jet home. It was about 45 to 50 minutes, you know, to go, you know, 18 miles downtown and 18 miles back. So again, throughout the day, it's easy. If you're someone that's gonna be, you know, has kids and you wanna take them to the zoo, the science museum, or to the museum downtown, you know, in the middle of the day, you don't really have to plan too much ahead. You just want to leave maybe the museums, you know, before 4:30, because 4:30 is when traffic starts to pick up around here. But before that, you can easily get to and from places in Oklahoma City. I said this in my very first video. You can get almost anywhere in Oklahoma City in the middle of the day in 20-25 minutes. And when it comes to your commute for traffic, I would add, depending on how deep you live in Edmond or Yukon or Mustang, I would add 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes to your commute if you're gonna be going through 5 o'clock or morning traffic. But it's not gonna be like adding an hour. Now, the next one could be either a pro or a con, depending on your viewpoints. Oklahoma is a red state, so it is conservative. In fact, I think over the past 4 elections, every single county has gone to the Republican candidate. So again, it is a very conservative state. And if you are a person that is trying to move to a place that's going to be more conservative, then Oklahoma City or Oklahoma is going to be a great place for you because it is conservative. Now, when it comes to the metro area as a whole, it's going to be, you know, I would say slightly purple. You know, you're going to find a lot of people around here that are going to be somewhat liberal. You know, you're going to find more people who are going to be conservative, but you're going to find your fair share of liberals here too. Okay, so it's a major metropolitan area, and when you have a major metropolitan area, you're going to have, you know, pretty much, I would say, a 45-55 split. Could be 40-60, but I would say it's probably more 45-55 when it comes to, you know, conservatives versus liberals here in the OKC metro. And when you get out of the Oklahoma City metro area, you know, you get in some of those areas that we talked about in the small town videos, the Cashins, the Harrahs, the Choctaws, the Newcastles, the Bridge Creeks, or the Blanchards. You're going to see a rise in the amount of people that are going to be conservative. I would say it's probably more 25-75 at that point. 75 people are going to be conservative, 25 are going to be liberal. So if you're someone that is a straight blue dog Democrat, all right, and you can't stand anything that's conservative, then Oklahoma may not be for you. Now, if you're someone, and I've had a lot of people like this too, that are left-leaning, but they're coming from a place like some states on the West Coast that they just don't agree with the politics anymore, and they are looking for a place that's a little bit more conservative. They still kind of hold true to some of their democratic principles and beliefs, but they understand where they're living right now. It's way over the top. You know what I mean? It's not what they want for their kids. And so they do kind of want to live someplace that is going to be slightly more conservative. I would say a lot of the suburbs in Oklahoma, especially the Edmonds, Norman would be a good choice, that you can kind of get the best of both worlds. You're going to be someplace that's going to be maybe a throwback of kind of old traditional family values, kids playing outside. You know what I mean? It's old school. And you can get that here in Oklahoma. But at the same time, it's not going to take you long to find people that kind of share in your beliefs. That if you're someone it's not going to take long for you to find somebody that is liberal, that's Democrats. There's plenty of blue people here in Oklahoma. So it's not going to take you long to find those types of people. But at the same time, again, it's an agree to disagree state. Your neighbors, they may be conservative. I got tons of them, but I got fantastic neighbors. And even though I'm thinking about moving, one of the main reasons why I don't want to is because of my neighbors. And here's another pro or con, depending on, again, where you sit on the fence. Oklahoma is a medicinal marijuana state. And so if you're someone that's not your bag, or, that's going to turn you off, then it's something you should know about. In fact, marijuana is a big business here in Oklahoma, believe it or not. Most people are surprised. There are a lot of people that kind of get here and they're just like, I can't wait to get to Oklahoma and its true, pure, conservative values. And they get off the plane and they start driving around. They're like, is that a dispensary? And then they see another one. They're like, my God. Because there are quite a few dispensaries here in Oklahoma. I mean, and they're everywhere. They're just not like in downtown Oklahoma City. They're in the suburbs too. They're in Yukon, they're in Mustang, they're in Edmond. It is a medicinal marijuana state. So that's something that you should know. If you're someone that thinks, again, Oklahoma is, super uptight, and you're thinking to yourself like, oh man, I can't imagine moving here. Now you might be thinking to yourself like, yeah, so I don't have to give up everything. Just something you should be aware of, because I actually had a client that was super excited. They flew out here, they landed, man, they were here for like 6 hours and they were just like, there's too many marijuana dispensaries. I don't want to move here anymore. And they literally never contacted me again. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to put it out there. Oklahoma is a medical marijuana dispensary state. You should know that.
And here's another pro about living here in Oklahoma, and it's going to be infrastructure. People who have lived here all their lives are going to say, Russell, you're crazy. But again, I grew up in California. Oklahoma, especially the Oklahoma City metro area, or Oklahoma Department of Transportation, they are doing, in my opinion, an excellent job of getting Oklahoma City prepared for its growth. I mean, again, I don't think Oklahoma City is ever going to be huge, but they're expanding their highways and freeways and making multiple changes to the turnpike and other things, because Oklahoma City is, it's somewhat of a growing city. And in my humble opinion, again, I think they're doing a good job of staying on track and trying to keep things moving. I mean, they are doing their best to kind of stay ahead of the game. But here's a con. Even though the infrastructure here in Oklahoma, they're doing a good job of keeping up with it, I don't know what kind of asphalt they use, especially here in the city. But Oklahoma, in my opinion, doesn't have the best roads from time to time. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's anything super terrible, but I mean, its pothole per capita might be a little bit higher than some other places, especially when you get into roads that are managed by the county and not the city. City, you got a better chance. But in some areas, you could be living in more county land. Those roads out there, sometimes not the best. Here's another pro about living in Oklahoma, and it's wildlife. Look, Oklahoma has a ton of vacant land.
So don't be surprised if you're living someplace, especially, you know, in Moore, Norman, or, you know, maybe northern Oklahoma City, Deer Creek area, Edmond area. Don't be surprised if you see deer. You know, I mean, that's a cool thing to see, that, you know, you're driving down the street and you see some deer. I have rabbits that live in my neighborhood. So if you're someone that really likes nature, you like wildlife, you like animals, I mean, there's an abundant amount of it living all around you. Now, here's another con about living in Oklahoma. Wildlife. Yes, it can be both a pro and a con. Like I said, I have rabbits that live in my neighborhood. And when I first got here, I was like, hey, little guy, look at you cute little bunnies nibbling on my grass. It's kind of annoying now, not gonna lie, not gonna lie. And now I've gone from, you know, being happy to see them to seeing a hawk in the sky and being like, yeah, do your bidding, Mr. Hawk. Get rid of these things. I mean, because again, rabbits will tear things up. I mean, and deer are cool, you know, unless they jump out at you while you're driving along a dark road at dusk or at midnight. Cool, majestic animals. But deer can also be a pain in the ass. And people who live way out in the country know this. Deer will eat damn near anything. So if you have a garden or whatever, they will eat part of your garden. I'm telling you, so will rabbits. Again, if you're someone that loves wildlife and you think that's adorable, great for you. For a lot of people, it kind of sucks sometimes. Now, here's a major plus about living in the Oklahoma City metro area, and that is it has a ton of outdoor space. If you've been wondering where I'm at in this video, I am at Lake Hefner, which is a very popular destination for a lot of people that live in the area. I live in Deer Creek. So a lot of people that live in Nichols Hills, the Village, the Deer Creek area, a lot of people who live in Putnam City flood to Lake Hefner. It is a very, very popular place where people walk, come out here to get exercise, they bike ride. It is a hot spot, even in the middle of the day like this. I mean, I can't, when I'm doing these videos, it doesn't take very long for someone to walk past me. So again, it's a very popular place. So Oklahoma City has fantastic golf courses, and it has tons of parks. So like from where I live, you know, within 4 or 5 miles, there are 3 large parks near me. You know, there's Lake Hefner, again, where I am right now. There is Bluff Creek, and there is also Martin's Nature Park. So again, Oklahoma has tons of outdoor space. Plenty of parks, plenty of walking trails, plenty of places to bike ride, plenty of places to go hang out. There's also Lake Arcadia, there's Lake Overholser. If you're in Norman, there's Lake Thunderbird. So if you're someone that likes to fish, who likes to kayak, there's also the boating district, there's the Oklahoma River. I mean, I'm telling you, Oklahoma has a ton of outdoor space. Now, here's another con about living in Oklahoma, and it's gonna be public education. Look, according to a lot of national pundits, Oklahoma is 50th in education out of 51 states if you include the District of Columbia, which is not great. And because of that ranking, that's why a lot of parents here in the metro are trying to get their kids in like Deer Creek schools, Edmond schools, Yukon, Mustang, Piedmont, Moore, Norman, some of the schools that are rated A according to niche.com. Because I'm going to tell you again, my kids are in Deer Creek schools, and when they do their state testing every year, you know, there's a little graph on that paper, and it says state average, district average. You know, state average is way over here. District average is way over here. And luckily, you know, I can say this as a proud papa, my kids are usually even past district average, you know. So again, there's a big difference of the quality education your kids are getting from district to district when you're here in Oklahoma. And if you don't want to send your kids to public school at all, here's a pro about moving to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a voucher program, okay? So if you're a person that wants to send their kid to Catholic school or just a normal private school, you can actually use your tax dollars to send your kid to a private school instead of sending them to public school. So you're gonna have school choice here. Also, homeschooling is big here in Oklahoma. So if you're someone that is in a state where the homeschooling community may not be, as big or as normal, here in Oklahoma, it's a very prevalent thing. There are a lot of people in Oklahoma that homeschool their kids. So if you're looking for a state that's gonna have a great support system for you as someone that wants to homeschool your kids, Oklahoma is a great place to move to. There's an awesome support system here. So again, public school rankings, not great. But again, if you want to, you can use your tax dollars and send your kid to private school. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I think you get like up to $7,000 per kid or $7,000 in general. But again, hey, that's a good dent to pay for private school. Also, again, if you want to homeschool your kids, you're going to have a great opportunity to do that here in Oklahoma. Another con about living in Oklahoma is public transportation. It sucks. There's very few things that I've said about Oklahoma that's just like, this is whack. Like, it's terrible. Public transportation sucks here. It does. If you're someone that's used to riding the bus, I grew up in California where, I would take the bus everywhere. You can't do that like you can in other places. Like Oklahoma, sometimes the bus stops are like a mile away from each other. They're in the most terrible locations. It's just public transportation around here just is not cool. There's plenty of Ubers and Lyfts, so you can get around that way. But if you're someone that really depends on the bus, it kind of sucks. But they do have a trolley system downtown, which is pretty cool. But it's great for that downtown crowd, but downtown's not that big, so you can kind of walk anywhere anyway. But I guess if you don't want to get sweaty or if you got heels on or something, you don't want to walk, public transportation down there is pretty cool. But if you live out in the suburbs and you want to take a bus somewhere, best of luck to you. Public transportation in Oklahoma, terrible. Which brings me to another con. If you're going to be living in Oklahoma, you need a car. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're going to need a car. Don't get me wrong. Again, if you really want to fight that bus battle, you can. I'm not going to stop you, but you're going to probably need a car. Now, there are some neighborhoods like the Plaza, Midtown, Uptown, where you can bike to and from work. Like if you're going to be working in downtown, there's close enough to downtown where you can actually bike. And there's grocery stores or little small stores where you can pop in, get some things to eat, pick up a few groceries, things of that nature. So if you're going to be living in those places, even the village, depending on where you live in the village, you can get to that May and Britain area, which is going to have some grocery stores and some other things. So it's not that bad. But most places you're living in Oklahoma, again, like the suburbs, gonna be honest, you're probably going to need a car. I'm just going to let you know. And the biggest pro, in my opinion, about Oklahoma is going to be the people. Look, one of the main reasons why I have not left Oklahoma are the people. And I can't believe I'm saying this. When I got here 20 years ago, it was a rough going at the beginning. Like so many people, I didn't really want to come to Oklahoma. I didn't. I came here to go to college and after I graduated, I got a job here, and I've had a lot of people open up doors for me. That's what I would say. Now, let's make it clear. I've done the work, and it's a symbiotic relationship. You know what I mean? They've benefited from me, and I sure in the heck have benefited from them. But it's not like California, though. You know what I mean? Where it is dog eat dog. There have been a lot of people that have genuinely, opened doors for me. Just because they thought I was a good person, or just because I deserved a shot, or, there is a level of, let's see what you got, to living here, you know what I mean? And so I'm very thankful. And the people around here have been pleasant. And again, I like the people of Oklahoma. They're not for everybody. Let's make that clear. There's plenty of people out here that are watching this videos like, this guy's full of crap. People in Oklahoma suck. That's your experience, and I'm not going to fight that. But my experience about people in Oklahoma, they're resilient, they're fair. For the most part, they try to be honest. You know what I mean? There's always crooked people everywhere. But for the most part, people in Oklahoma they've been kind to me, and I think that's probably the best part about living here. And there you have it. Those are my pros and cons of Oklahoma. Like I just said, again, 20 years ago, had no desire to be here. And now that I've been here for so long, I can't imagine living anywhere else. Oklahoma is a great place. It really is. It's not for everybody. I will admit that. It's not for everybody. But it's for a lot of you guys. But if you got any questions, make sure you send me a text or give me a call. And it's funny, again, I had a guy tell me the other day, I always say this in my videos, if you call me, 90% of the time, I'm actually gonna be the one that answers. And it trips people out because they're thinking, he's on YouTube, he's probably super busy, he won't answer the phone. And 90% of the time, I pick up the phone. So give me a call, shoot me a text. If not, I'll see you on the next video.